Hello children, welcome back to the literacy session. So we have completed the descriptive writing successfully, and I saw your descriptive writing. It was very clear. You have added the order of adjectives, you have added types of nouns. So I hope that you are very clear with how a descriptive passage has to be framed. Now moving on with our third genre, that is narrative writing. So we have discussed a lot about narrative writing. We do it in a daily basis, right? So this is just an explanation of how to write a narrative writing and what is it, okay? And there is an exemplary passage at the end. So let us start. So narrative writing is nothing but when you narrate a story to someone. It can be real, it can be fake, it can be imaginary, creative, anything. But when you narrate, when you tell a story to someone, that becomes a narration. Okay, movie is an example where you can say that people narrate the stories to others, right? So there are different ways a narration can happen. So let us see what it is. So the first picture, it shows the acrostic poem kind of explanation for the narration. So let us see. It's nothing but it's inviting your readers into the story with a catchy lead. Whenever you write or begin your story, when you share your experience, you have to use a catchy sentence or a catchy word or catchy passage, something like that. It should be very attractive. The listeners or the readers should find it attractive. Next is arrange your story using a clear beginning, middle and end. So always I say you, right? Whenever you write a passage or whenever you speak in the form of a big speech, it should have three parts. One is the beginning, middle and end. That is the topic sentence, the body sentence and the closing sentence. In the topic sentence, you can introduce the characters in a story. It depends upon the writing, children. So since it is about the narration, you can introduce the characters, you can write something about the story, right? In the middle, that is the main session of the story. It is going to be the main session of the story where you will be explaining and describing each and everything in detail, what is happening in the story, all that. And at the end you can conclude it. If it is having a moral, definitely you can end it with a moral, or you can end it with the feeling of the character. What is the feeling of that character, or what is your feeling as a narrator in that story? So that should be there in the narration, and reel in your readers with the most interesting points. So you have to catch hold of your readers, or you can say you have to attract your readers or grab the attention of the readers using the interesting points. It should not be boring kind of thing. The readers should not be feeling bored, or the same content should not be repeated again and again. Okay, and remember spelling and punctuation rules. So this is not only for the narration, this is for everything, whatever you write. Okay, in language, whenever you write something, this is very much important. The rules, the grammar, the punctuation, everything is important there. Then audience matters, because you have to understand the type of audience you have. You know, right, when you're narrating something to your friends, you narrate something that they feel interested towards, right? What are they interested in? Based on that you narrate your story. So you have to see, when you are going to narrate something, you have to check on what they are interested to listen. Only when they are interested you can grab their attention, right? Then true details engage readers. You have to have true details inside the narration. So narration can be of any type, right? It is not necessary that your narration should be like, you know, it should not be imaginary. Even when you are creating a story, when you say it to someone, when you share that story with someone, that is a narration itself. But that doesn't mean that you should, you know, add the points that are irrelevant to the story. So you have to catch hold of all these things. You have to keep in mind all these things, whether these facts are true or not. Okay, you need to justify certain points there. Then exact details make readers want more. So you have to give it in a detailed manner. Your detailing is very important there. You're not supposed to, for example, if you're introducing a character in your narration, it's not like that you just give the name of the character, that's it. You have to describe their behavior, the way they behave, because the story revolves around the behavior of the characters, right? That is what matters. So this is all about narration. And next is what makes a narrative. As I told you, narration should have a beginning, middle, end, and seed story. Now seed story means when you narrate something, if it is a small story, that becomes a seed story. And there is one more story called watermelon story, which is a big story, right? So it depends upon the story. If the story is small, we call it as a seed story. So there is no rule that your story should be big, very big, right? It's not like that. Even if you give a short story, that should be meaningful, that should have beginning, middle and end, that should be, you know, grabbing the attention of the readers. Then it should have emotions in it. The emotions of the character should be described in that. Then it tells who did what, everything should be detailed, and it tells what happened in the story, it tells where it happened, and it tells when it happened. So this who is nothing but a character of the story, tells what is the happening, the problem of the story, where did it happen is the setting, and when did it happen, the timing, the time period. When you use the words such as first, next, then, all these becomes the time order words. So that is, or when you use early in the morning, once upon a time, long ago, in ancient times, all these words, that becomes the time, the when part of the story. So always a narration will have the characters, the settings, the plot, you call it as the story itself, okay, the problem and the solution of a story. Okay, this is how you need to segregate your story. So this is again a description of how a narration should have. This is an easy way for you to understand. So something new in this is it has to be sequential. When you narrate a story, it is not like you're just narrating from here and there. It's not like that. You have to narrate it in order. What happened first, what happened next, what happened then, what happened at last. And at last you can give the conclusion of a story. So this is what a narration is. Now talking about the elements of narrative writing. When you're writing a narration, what are the things you need to be concentrating more on? So we can write narratives to develop real or imaginary experiences or events. So as I said you before, it's not compulsory that you have to write only the real experiences, because sometimes the creative writing also takes the position of narration, right? I'll tell you, when you write a narrative writing, you can have a descriptive writing inside that, because that moment is where you are describing the characters. You need to use make use of descriptive writing there, and you need to make use of creative writing there, because sometimes your story cannot be real. You are creating a story on your own, then it becomes a creative writing. That time when you tell a story to someone, that is also a narration, right? There is no mistake in adding other different kinds of writing into narration. Okay, you can add an expository writing. Expository writing is nothing but the step-by-step procedure. When you explain it step by step, that becomes expository. So a narration writing is or narrative writing is a combination of different types of writing, children. So when you feel that you are describing something, it's not necessary that you need to worry about that. If you are including something out of narration, that's not a matter. Okay, that's not at all a problem. You can involve any type of writing into it, but you have to check whether it is in a sequential order. Okay, so here it has got tells a story using time. So you need to tell when this happened. It's not like that on this date it happened. It's not like that. That's not the time they are asking for. There are certain words you need to use in a story, right? As I said you before, once upon a time, the words like that. Okay, that is very much important. Has a beginning, middle and end. It can be real or imaginary, that's a choice. Uses story elements like narrator, the one who is going to narrate the story, the character in the story, the settings, that is where it is happening, whether it is happening in a forest, whether it is happening at the home, where it is happening actually. Then problem, what is the problem of the story, what is the problem that has happened in the story, and what was the solution. Crafts a plot, the story is there. Be ready with your story, plan your story accordingly, then you can narrate it. Without narration or without planning, you cannot directly narrate, because at times you may forget some points or forget the step-by-step order of the story. So you need to plan it. It has vivid descriptions of events. So you need to describe the events very clearly. You cannot just say in one word that this happened. It's very tough. The readers will not understand. The readers will not feel to continue the reading. So you need to give them the description of events. Events means what were the occurrings in that, what happened in the story actually, what are the scenes in that, what were the objects used, what are the people, the settings, everything you need to explain it very clearly. Then it can have dialogues. If you are narrating a story and if it is in the form of a story, you want to tell it like a story, like characters. When two characters are speaking to one another, that conversation you can bring in the form of a dialogue. Then conveys a message or lesson learned. So every story will have some of the lessons that we can learn in our life. So that can be included in this. This is the elements that is required when you write a narrative writing. So this is one of the exemplary passage. Exemplary passage is nothing but it is an example of how a narrative writing can be. So this narration is called as a personal narrative because here a small child or a kid is sharing his or her experience about the 4th of July. So I'll read the passage and I'll explain the graphic organizer on how to reflect on it. So the title of the passage or the topic is the 4th of July. This summer, I spent the 4th of July at Gibson Park with my family. My grandpa, who lives several states away, came to visit and celebrate the holiday with us. Since I don't get to see him very often, it made the holiday even more special. So the child is starting the sentence with very catchy sentence that summer the child on 4th of July he or she went to the Gibson Park with her or his family, and the child's grandpa has visited the child after a long time and he lives several states away. So that event made that kid's day a special one. So the 4th of July is special because it is the Independence Day of Americans. So they celebrate it like we celebrate our Independence Day, right? So that is how it is celebrated. So once we were at the park, we needed to find a place to sit. There were more people there than grains of sand on a beach. See the way the narrator has explained that. The place was crowded. The child could have written, the place was crowded. But instead of that, the child used a beautiful, sentence. There were more people there than grains of sand on a beach. It means there were more people. More than the sand, there were people, a lot of people there. The place was so much crowded. And you can see the way the child has started the sentence. Once we were at the park. That once, it is called as the timing. Okay, that is the time. Once. Okay, then we walked endlessly through a maze of blankets, picnic baskets, and smells of various 4th of July feasts. Finally, we spotted a patch of grass in the sea of people. My brother and I quickly claimed the spot by unfolding our lawn chairs and spreading out our own oversized blankets. So they were carrying all the things and they could smell different food the people were eating there. So the way the narrator has explained it is very beautiful. Not even in a single place the narrator has used a simple sentence, right? You can see how it is used. The smell of everyone else's food made my stomach rumble, which let me know that it was time to eat. I helped my grandpa make his world-famous cheeseburgers on the small grill that we brought with us. While the burgers were cooking, Grandpa told me funny stories about when my dad was little. We laughed so hard that we both forgot about the cheeseburgers, which ended up more burned than world famous. So the cheeseburger was world famous and Grandpa was making it. At that time, what happened? He was sharing his experience of, him growing up his dad and whatever his dad has done at the childhood. That was being explained there, that was being shared there. They forgot that the cheeseburgers were, they were preparing that. What happened? It got burned, and it got burned than the world famous because the cheeseburgers were world famous. But since it took a lot of time for their discussion, the cheeseburgers got burned. So look at the way beautifully the narrator has explained it. Once the fireworks started, my eyes focused on the sky. The bright colors lit the dark night like a sunny afternoon. The patterns reminded me of sprinkles on top of birthday cakes. When I realized that the fireworks were reflected in the lake, it was like I was seeing two fireworks shows, one above and one below. So this passage or this paragraph tells us about the fireworks there. So you can see how it is described. This is where the description has happened. So the child has described how it lit the sky beautifully, how the child felt during that, and he or she has compared that fireworks with the birthday cake, right? So this is how you have to write. After the fireworks finale, I helped fold the blanket and lawn chairs. I wasn't looking forward to the long trek home, but the time passed faster than I expected. With the fireworks and spending time with my grandpa, it had been a great 4th of July. So the child didn't realize that the day has ended and he didn't want to go home. Okay, so what happened? He's telling that as I didn't expect that the day would get over and I was not ready to go home, but the child really enjoyed the time spending with his grandpa. That is what is told here. So this is how a passage has to be written. So at the conclusion, you can see what the child has felt. At the beginning, you can see how the catchy sentence is written. Now looking at the graphic organizer here, the title is there, the topic is there, the purpose. What is the purpose? Now in title you can give personal narrative, in topic you can give the 4th of July, and in purpose you need to write what is the purpose of this passage. It's not the purpose that you have to learn the narrative. The purpose cannot be that. The purpose is the child wanted to share his or her experience about the 4th of July. Okay, that is what should be there in the purpose. Next, the catchy first sentence to capture your reader's attention. So by looking at the passage, where do you think the child or the narrator has grabbed the attention of the reader? That sentence you need to write it here. The first, next, last, as I told you, these are the words like time order words, which states the sequential order of the passage. So what happened at the beginning, what happened in the middle, what happened at last. So that you need to write. You are not supposed to copy as it is from the passage, children. You need to understand it in your own words. You have to reframe it and then reflected in the first, next and last, okay, in a sequential order. And at the conclusion, you should conclude what was the feeling of the narrator, or what is your feeling, whatever it is. So conclusion is the ending of the story. Without conclusion, you cannot end a story or a narration because it feels incompleted. So do that, and then you can submit your works in the Google Classroom. I hope you are clear with how a narrative writing has to go on. So this is one of the example of personal narrative. There are different kinds of narrations which we will be looking forward in the next classes. So till I see you for the next time, bye, take care.